Hello, and welcome to The Assembly Line, an NES homebrew podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Kevin from Kahan Games.
And I'm Beau from Soul Goose Productions.
And we're here to talk about homebrews. Now, Beau, I'm going to name some games, and I want you to tell me what you think they might have in common.
Ooh, a fun game. Okay.
Yes, we're just going to start it off with a game
You're
here.
deviating from the script. I'm telling you that right now.
All right, so Zelda, Final Fantasy, Lolo,
Ooh.
Mega Man. What do you think that these games have in common?
Other than Lolo, I could have said all ones that I like.
Well, the correct answer is they're all part of a series.
Oh, okay. That's how we're getting there. Okay, I see.
What do you think about series?
I think, well, from which perspective? I could look at series in many different ways. I like seeing them on the shelf. I like playing through them, and I like, well, programming them.
So you like them from all aspects?
Generally, yeah, unless it's a bad one, like, or I don't like the series, that they've ruined by not making a good game since number 2, and yeah, they're 12
Which one are you referring to in that regard?
Oh, in that regard? I mean, like, look at Mega Man. Like, after 6, they all just kind of suck.
Yeah. All right, well, let's focus it a little bit more. Let's look at, like, the importance of licensed era series games.
Okay, yeah, prior to the NES, there'd been games, obviously, and there'd been some series, but often they weren't as character-driven as games on the NES, and so when the NES, took off, people rallied behind these characters. I mean, Mario had cereal and tennis shoes, probably, and the TV series, like, those were huge, like, and they were all based on these characters, and you wanted to go on the journeys, and yeah.
So you think that players getting to know the characters, like loving the characters, the companies making these games wanted to sort of continue the stories and see where they could push the series in different ways?
Well, they wanted your money is what they wanted, but
well, they got it.
Yeah, well, they definitely did. I mean, like, as a kid, I worshipped Mega Man. I mean, I drew the pictures, I would read all about him in Nintendo Power, watch the cartoon whenever it was on, which was very rare. But I think, yeah, from a creator perspective, if you look at it, I'm going to pick Mega Man again, because Zelda 2 was an atrocity and should never be mentioned.
Oh, you're going to get some hate mail for that.
Hey, I always do. But it's going to be you, isn't it?
No, I mean, I do like Zelda 2, but it's not my favorite.
We'll see. But like with Mega Man, if you look at Mega Man 1 and even Mega Man 2, there's such a jump. Like,
yes,
you go from getting your feet wet to making almost one of the best games in the series, like right off the bat. It's yeah. And I just recently played Mega Man 1 for the first time, and wow, I mean, that is jarring. That's rough.
Well, okay, so let's look at the appeal of series from like a programmer perspective. Like, what would a programmer want to accomplish by creating a vast series of games?
I think it's that growth. You can constantly be growing without having to reinvent the entire wheel the whole time. It's like you're building a faster race car without starting. That's a bad analogy. Like in my own life, that sounds so vast, but in the last few years, a series, I have Swords and Runes. Like, that's a series that I was involved with for the first one, and we made a second and a third, and then I decided to make my own sequel to it, and it feels weird, like, making a sequel to somebody else's game, but, like, once you're invested in the series itself, you want to see it continue and grow and push in different ways, even small ways.
Yeah, and I think that it allows the game creator to, like, after you establish a world, being able to push it into a new direction, I think, allows the programmer to accomplish something that you just can't do with a single game. Like, you have that sort of basis, and then you add that little wrinkle, and sometimes that wrinkle can sort of make all the difference in the world and make it very creative and fresh and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it only takes one thing to, like, mess everything up or to add to it.
Now, let me ask you a question, and I don't know if I've ever asked you this before.
Oh boy.
You mentioned that you have made a sequel or some sequels to Swords and Runes. Have you ever considered
Releasing them? One of these days. Go on.
Have you ever considered a 0 to XI?
Oh, very, very good there.
All right. So what are some notable homebrew series of games that have, more than one?
Yeah, so we're on the NES, the console of series, and it just makes sense that other people would make series. One of the big ones is, of course, the 8-bit Christmas series, which we talked about a few episodes ago. And even though the games are very different each time, they have certain traits in terms of release style, cartridge, themes, and all that. Like,
do you ever think that Brian is going to at some point say, kind of like the Marvel universe, that all of the Christmas games are in the same universe, and the Snowball people know the Santa, know the pinball game? All right, that's ridiculous. Go on.
Knowing Brian, it could happen. He's a wild card. You never know with him. What's another big homebrew series?
The one that immediately comes to mind is both of our favorites, Battle Kid.
Oh yeah, that is a series.
Yeah, we got BK, we got BK2, and we have the new one that was released on Famicom.
Which is kind of like 1.5-ish.
Right. It fits.
Yeah. And after number 2 came out, I mean, the first thing people asked was, where's number 3? Are you doing it? Like, they wanted more. They wanted to keep going back. They liked the style of the first 2 games. I mean, that's the nice thing about a series is you tend to, as a gamer, you tend to know what you're getting in terms of basic gameplay. That tends to be consistent across most. I mean, not the Christmas series, but, Battle Kid or like the Haunted Halloween games. There's now 2 of those, and I think we should hopefully see a third this year.
Well, there is another series of games that also breaks that mold.
Yeah, there is.
That would be the Candelabra series.
Yes.
We have, of course, the Mad Wizard, Scarlet Matron, which he's working on now, but Rise of Amandus, and then the other game that is currently on Kickstarter, and if you haven't backed it, pause the episode right now, go to Kickstarter and back it, Candelabra Estoscerro, the dungeon crawler.
Yes, and those are, you mentioned 4 of them, there are like 12 total, and so it is, the series as a whole, Rob is doing some interesting things in that he's telling this large story from multiple angles, like different characters' points of view, and they're both good and evil.
Yeah, I think that's what's most interesting is you get to play as each of the heroes individually and then as a group, but you also get to play from the sort of big bad boss's perspective in different games. So it's really unique.
Yeah, well, and they each use different genres of gameplay, which to me is like, as a programmer, I would never want to do that because it's like, I got to make like 12 different engines.
Right.
I'm just going to make 12 games with one engine.
Yeah, at least with Battle Kid, you could probably tweak the engine a little bit, but at least the engine's there that you can just immediately build another game with.
Oh yeah, no, Rob starts from scratch every time.
Absolutely, and he probably wouldn't have it any other way.
He's a mad wizard. So tell me about Candelabra Estoscerro, this was the first game that was announced for the series way back in like 2013 or 2014.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Everybody was hyped, and we were all excited. We're like, oh, Rob, you got to finish this game. I even messaged him at one point and was like, I want to be a tester for you. Like, this is so neat. And he was like, yeah, okay, buddy. And I was like, all right, well, now we know each other. But
is that how you first introduced yourself to him?
Yeah, probably. I could go find the email, and it's
man.
A gushing fanboy embarrassing thing. I tend to send those to people. I hope they just delete them, but somewhere on my hard drive there's evidence.
It's adorable. But so
wait, I wasn't done.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I thought you asked me about Candelabra Estoscerro. Were you still rambling about your email to Rob?
No. So it was Estoscerro was the first announced, but then
that's right.
He came out with the Mad Wizard and then the Rise of Amandus, and Estoscerro kind of like got lost. It seemingly got lost in this shuffle of other games. And Kevin, you were going to tell us what Estoscerro is.
Absolutely. So Candelabra Estoscerro is a 3D maze dungeon crawler.
So like your Mario looking around in 64, like that type of thing?
No. So
I had to answer a lot of questions last week at PAX East, and they're like, 3D on the NES? And I was like, whoa, back up.
So yeah, there are static images of a dungeon where you can kind of see if you can go forward or left or right, and you sort of make your way through this dungeon, and you actually have to pull out, well, I guess you don't have to, but it will help you tremendously if you pulled out a piece of notebook paper and a pen and actually drew the map, because they are very large mazes and you will get lost.
Yeah, this is the first game that I have ever pulled graph paper out and made a map. It's interesting.
It is, and I think it's a different sort of pace. Like when you're playing a dungeon crawler, you can move at your own pace. You move forward, you can move any direction, and you can kind of take your time mapping it out, and then you'll find that you drew too many squares in one direction and you have to start over. It's a huge mess. But when you have the actual map done, you can fly through the floor like on subsequent playthroughs, and it's such a good feeling knowing exactly where to go and where the enemies are, because the enemies spawn in specific places. Now, the enemies themselves will be randomized, but the squares that hold enemies are always the same, so you know where they spawn. And what's cool about this game is after each battle, if you succeed, you are awarded something, either a specific stat boost like strength or speed, or you get a new weapon or a new piece of armor. So your characters are slowly getting better and better and more powerful and faster, but there's a lot of strategy involved at the same time, because you have to decide, is this character going to attack? Because if you attack, you can't block for this like period of cooldown. So you have to kind of pick your battles wisely, and you will die a lot. But man, once you grasp the concept and the controls and like the whole idea, it is among my favorite experiences on the NES.
Yes, so it play.
Sorry, I just rambled.
No, I loved it. That was wonderful. Comparable games would be things like Wizardry or Swords and Serpents, but like Kevin mentioned, one of the defining features of Estoscerro in terms of strategy is that the enemies are in fixed locations, which you don't see a lot. I mean, like usually you only see that in turn-based strategy games like Fire Emblem and things like that. Like any regular RPG, they're random, and you can fight them over and over and keep gaining levels or whatever. But Estoscerro, you have to be very careful how you go through that maze, almost more like a roguelike where you pick and choose your battles. And
yeah, and I forgot to mention one thing. I did say, of course, that you can kind of move at your own pace, but he threw in randomized traps.
Oh, yes.
So you'll stop to look at your map and kind of get your bearings, and all of a sudden realize that, something is falling on you and you have to block in a certain order, and it keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, I mean, Rob is one of the most innovative people in the homebrew community, in my mind.
Yes, easily.
Yeah, I mean, because he never sits still. He never makes a direct sequel. He is always trying to find ways to innovate, and I don't know what drives him to do these things, but he does them so well.
And I don't know how he comes up with the ideas. They seem innovative is kind of the perfect word, because on other dungeon crawlers, you can sort of, when you're attacking an enemy, for the most part, it's either turn-based attack or it's action combat where you can sort of attack at will. But he has this whole fresh new approach to combat that I personally have never seen in any other game. And at first appearance, it's like, what is going on?
Yes.
What are these things moving around? How does it all work? And I do highly recommend reading the manual. But
yes.
like I said, once you get the hang of it, it feels so natural. Like, it's amazing how your body can adapt to different control schemes, and after you have it, it just feels great.
Well, can we talk about Rob's unique control scheme for Estoscerro here?
Sure. Okay, so the combat in Estoscerro, basically, when you enter combat, 3 arrows pop up in the top right-hand corner of the screen and start scrolling up and down at slightly different speeds. And they scroll up and down right beside where the enemies are of whoever you're fighting. Now, the control scheme in Estoscerro, you can either use 2 controllers turned sideways, where the D-pads are kind of on top under your thumbs, or you can use a modified Virtual Boy controller, as made famous in the popular NES homebrew Spookatron by Soul Goose Productions.
Which nobody can buy yet, but soon.
So, when you are in battle and the arrows are moving up and down, the way you attack is a different direction on the D-pad correlates to a different character in your party. So if you press left on the left D-pad, the character on the left will attack. If you press down on the left D-pad, the character in the middle will attack.
Hubs.
And then yes, thank you. And then if you press right on the left D-pad, the character on the right attacks.
Heckle.
Now, you may be asking, well, what does up do? Up actually casts magic. And I don't remember which character it actually casts, because there's 2 characters that can do magic, and up on the left D-pad is one character's magic, and up on the right D-pad is the other character's magic. Now, the right D-pad, other than pressing up, the directions correlate exactly like the attacks. So if you press left on the right D-pad, the left character blocks. If you press down on the right D-pad, the middle character blocks, and etc. So left attacking with the left controller, left blocking on the right controller, the same character. That's controlled by the same characters. So it probably sounds a little bit foreign and confusing, but once you
very complicated.
Once you sit down and give it a little bit, it starts feeling more and more natural, and you will die a lot at first, and you're going to be like, I don't know if I can handle this. This is a lot. But your brain slowly starts getting trained to where you can start attacking and defending without even like thinking about it. It just starts becoming natural. It's really bizarre and really fun.
Well, and yeah, unlike most dungeon crawlers, this is active combat. You have your moving arrows, but as those arrows are moving, the enemies actually shoot like projectiles at the character portraits, and that's how you're able to block. Like, as the things get close, you don't want to block too early, but like you hit the button, it'll throw up a shield, and you actually like see the attack be blocked, which I have never seen done in a game before like this. Like, that's just nuts to me.
Yeah, I don't know how he comes up with it. It's crazy. But the projectiles combat the characters at different speeds, and different monsters attack at different rates. So you have to kind of strategize which character attacks most frequently, try to take them out first, and then sort of, take out the other enemies afterward. It's there's a lot of strategy that goes into the battle system, and it's impossible to master. I mean, as far as I can tell, I've played through the game 3 times now, and I still die. Like, there's just no way around it. But you start minimizing that, and you do get revives, which you can use mid-battle, which is awesome. I don't know, it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, and if your character has attacked, there's a period there while they're like recharging or recovering where they cannot block. So even if you're wanting to attack with the one guy and something gets shot at him or her, like, it's like, oh, I gotta block and I gotta wait it out and I gotta be strategic with my with my choices.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. But it's one of my favorite games. I would probably say it's close to my favorite homebrew, but
Lizard's up there.
Beau, just no. The mad lizard.
You leave my lizard alone. Another thing about exploring the dungeon, which, like most dungeon crawlers, you get, you get torches, and so like your torch will burn out and everything is black then, and you can't see the map, and you got to find the map to begin with. I have not ever played a dungeon crawler. The closest I've gotten was Phantasy Star 1, because that's how the dungeons are in that. And then Mystical Ninja, of all things, had like a dungeon crawler section, like a mini game. And that's pretty much it. Like, ever since Rob started this game, it was like, that's the dungeon crawler I want to play first. And then as he's gotten closer and closer and he's shared some stuff privately and whatnot, it's like, yeah, I'm just going to wait till I can really play this. Like, I finally got Etrian Odyssey, and I was very excited because you can like draw the map on the screen. I was like, no, I'm waiting for Rob's game. And I'm so glad I did. Like, it's so unique.
Yes. Yeah, after, just like you, I had never played any in the past. So when he presented the opportunity to beta test, I of course jumped on it, because anything Rob does, is going to be unique. So I, was gung ho about it. And after I got through that initial, like, oh my god, I'm terrible at this game, and I actually got the hang of it, pushed through, beat the game, I was just hungry for like more dungeon crawlers. So I immediately jumped into Swords and Serpents, beat that game. Amazing. If you haven't played that, I would highly recommend it also.
Noted.
It could even tide you over until you get your hands on Estoscerro, listeners. And I've tried all the other dungeon crawlers on the NES. Hard as balls, have not done anything on any of the other ones. I just always die immediately. But Estoscerro and Swords and Serpents, highly recommended.
It's just weird. It was such a popular genre for so many years. I mean, Hank Rogers with Super Black Onyx, like before he did Tetris and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Shadow Brain and the Cleopatra. The NES has amazing dungeon crawlers, and yet most of them have been translated. But it's still not a genre that like really survived into 32 and 64 and 128-bit gameplay. So it's I
wonder why experience. That is.
Did you ever play Shadowgate 64?
Was that on the Nintendo 64? That's probably a stupid question.
Well, yes, but
no,
I guess it was.
I never had one, so no, I've never played it.
Oh, well, go play that and tell me what you think, and come on back.
So are you positively recommending it, or saying, like, go try this and hate your life?
Yeah, that, and was it like Aiden Chronicles? I think that was sort of it's just, because it's such a 2D style of gameplay, it doesn't transfer over as well. And gamers back then, our generation, seemed to be gluttons for punishment with the genre choices.
Yeah. It's such a fun genre, though. Like, the sort of experience of not knowing what's coming up and having to physically draw where you've been to keep track of where you are. It's just like, it's unlike anything else, but it's all like, it's doable because it's up to you to manage everything.
Yeah, and I'm as we know, I'm a big RPG player, and even I've never played dungeon crawlers. They're like this weird Western, difficult to understand thing.
Yeah.
But I'm ready to change that. Before we get too much further, can you kind of tell me about the narrative of Estoscerro in relation to the other games in the Candelabra series? Like, how does it fit in?
Okay. So, Candelabra Estoscerro takes place after the Mad Wizard and the Scarlet Matron and the Warlord Slayer, and Rise of Amadus.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm framing it in the perspective of the characters that you're actually using in Estoscerro. Like, and I think that's why he delayed the release of it, because he wanted to focus on the individual player characters and, allow the audience to learn about them. And then, now you're playing with them all together on this grand adventure. So,
at some point he said he was going to delay this one till like the first 6 games were done. It was like, I think we'll live without the full narrative right now. Just get it out. No.
Yeah. So the 3 characters, Heckle and Hubs and Han, are sort of summoned to a king, the king of the region. I apologize, I don't know who he's the king of. The land.
Can't go wrong with that.
Yes, the land. And he has heard of this candelabra, which sits atop this plateau called Estoscerro. And he quests. He tasks the player characters to go to Estoscerro and retrieve the candelabra for him. So the characters are sent off into this dungeon. Apparently, people have been sent prior who have not returned, so it's a known dangerous place. But the characters are sort of tasked of getting through the dungeon to the plateau of Estoscerro to retrieve the candelabra, and they don't really know what to expect. And one other sort of aspect that we haven't talked about, the main communication after you're sort of cast out from the castle to go on this quest, you actually communicate directly with your god, Zekrom. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced, but it's Xecrom, I think.
Well, we've never been big on pronouncing things correctly.
That's true. Let's stick to what we're good at.
Zekrom?
Zekrom.
Yeah, it's like you're from the the South. Zekrom.
But yeah, at various stages in the maze, you'll come to a square where he communicates with you and says, he'll give you a hint, or he'll give you some sort of special something. I don't want to spoil anything, but usually it's a hint or a riddle to go find a secret in the game. And there are walls that you can walk through. There are so many things that are hidden in this game. It just feels... I haven't really felt like I was on an adventure like this, to this extent, in any other game in a long time. Like, I really felt like I was in the middle of something special. But yeah, that's kind of the narrative. You're sent off to a quest to retrieve the candelabra from Estoscerro.
Yeah, and it's such a vast series. The first game that came out was The Mad Wizard, and the second game is actually the prequel to The Mad Wizard, where you play as the bad guy and collect the monsters and stuff that then the Mad Wizard has to fight in that game. It gets a little confusing this side of having all 12 games done, but yeah, so the characters have all banded together at this point, and they're gonna go through the maze.
Yeah.
So art-wise, what did you like or dislike? Tell us about the art in general, and then we'll get into some likes and dislikes and all that.
The overall, I want to say I love the art. The one thing that jumped out at me immediately when comparing it to other dungeon crawlers is that the enemies that you're fighting don't show up in the 3D maze window. Like, you don't see them in the maze. They're actually off to that top right corner, like I mentioned, where the sort of combat animation takes place. So the enemies themselves all look very good. The dungeon maze looks very good. The characters on the bottom of the screen look amazing. It all feels like it's tied together very well. There's nothing that sort of stands out as not fitting in with the stylistic theme of the game.
Yeah, it's weird to have 3 separate art styles on the same screen like that. Because you've got the static maze, which requires, on the NES, a very specific way of doing things if you're not going to burn all your tiles. And then the enemies, with their little 16 by 16, like, they look like the enemies from the Mad Wizard in terms of size and
yes,
and whatnot. And then you have these full character portraits at the bottom. It's just, it's very well put together, and I never would have thought that I would say that had I just looked at a few, still images or a video.
Yeah, I don't think you can fully grasp what's going on until you're actually playing it. I don't think the screenshots really do it justice. But I will say one other thing that I haven't mentioned. When you start out a floor, that first battle that you enter, you're struggling a little bit because your characters are weak, they're slow, they're not upgraded at all. But by the time you get to the end of that floor and you've sort of killed all the enemies on the floor, you've gotten all the upgrades, you can actually tell a noticeable difference on the strength of your party, which actually makes you want to keep playing because you can feel that progression, like you're actually making a difference in this world.
Stats are, from experience, really hard to do well. And yeah, Rob nailed it with them, which is... It's surprising when you have a system that's not straight experience-based and doesn't have gold, and I'm talking about Swords and Runes 4 here, it's very tricky to do. And so the way that he did it is, how do I want to say, rip-offable? Something that you want to steal,
You're going to borrow that idea?
I didn't say that, but maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, but there is an enemy counter on each floor, so you know how close you are to defeating all the enemies on each floor. And you're going to want...
Is?
Yeah, there is. It's near where the combat animation is. There's a little skull and an X, so enemy times whatever.
Oh man, do you know how many times I played Legend of Zelda and didn't realize that there was a death counter? Pretty much the first 15 years. I could never figure out why that number kept changing.
Yeah.
That apparently is a common trait in my life. Okay, go on. Sorry.
But you're gonna want to do your best to clear each floor because you want as many upgrades and power-ups as you can before you progress further, because it does get very hard and the enemies start doing some unique things that maybe aren't immediately apparent on like how to combat them.
I love when you're vague. It's just so fun.
Yeah, I want the people listening to it fully experience it without really any idea of what they're getting themselves into, because that's part of the enjoyment. Like when you get to something and you literally stop and say, what the fuck is happening? Like, what is this enemy doing? How do I stop it? He's dodging everything I'm attacking. I don't get it. You have to figure it out, man. It's a blast.
Well, I liked that even though the battle locations are fixed, the enemies that you fight are not. And so sometimes you just get a bad hand and you're going to fight like super hard guys right away and just die. And it's like, well, that was that. But if you get back to it and you get that string of like, oh, I just fought 3 battles and they were all easy. It's like, I'm going for it. We're going to fight. We're going to finish this floor today. And that's it. And I thought that was motivating and fun.
A lot of fun.
There's something else about Rob games besides, crazy control schemes that take a lot of time to kind of master and feel comfortable with. I mean, Amandus had that crazy, you're controlling 2 characters with 1 control pad. And that's still one of my favorite. I wish I really wanted to cover Amandus instead of Estoscerro, but, timeliness says we should probably do Estoscerro. Because I just I feel like not enough people know about that. Go check it out.
Is that the common theme between all Rob games? They're underappreciated?
Well, not all of them. Everybody loves the Mad Wizard.
That's true.
It's like top 3 on almost anybody's list of best homebrews ever.
Yeah, I don't think that.
And Amandus is like... That was released? I don't remember that.
It's a shame. I remember when I came up to visit you and we played through that game in 2 players. Like, it was so fun. Yes, it is amazing. It was also released the same week that 5 other games were released and just got buried. It's a shame, nobody even. And then it was ceased production, and it's harder to find now because not a lot of copies were made. And but you can download the ROM. Well, you can download the ROM, and it's an amazing 2-player shooter, and you can also buy a cart copy right now with the Kickstarter, which we'll get to in a bit. Yeah, so common themes between Rob games, crazy control schemes, unique genres, and also music. Yeah. I know you want to talk about this, but Rob music you can identify a mile away by the beats. He of course has sort of everyone, well, I don't know if everyone, but a lot of people knows he plays bass in various bands. So he has sort of I don't want to say like a heavy metal influence, but he has a lot of like heavier sounds in his 8-bit music. So yeah, you can hear sort of the crunchy distortion and the beats, and they just have such a unique sound that it's immediately discernible when you're listening to a Rob song. And he hasn't stuck with the same style of music throughout the series. Like the Mad Wizard had a very NES feel to it, but the Rise of Amandus had he has a level where it basically stops just so you can hear this solo song for like 2 minutes. Yeah, he does a really cool thing at the beginning of the game. Like when you enter the dungeon, there's just silence. And I don't know if he did this because like he wants you to feel sort of the seclusion. You're in this dungeon, you don't know what's going on, you don't know where you are, you don't know what to expect. But after you hit a specific square, the music kicks in, and it's like, oh hell yeah, like it's happening. Find me a battle.
Yeah, and it's good music. Like I would listen to this on a CD or an NSF or whatever I can figure out how to play in my car, which is a mess. But anyways, yeah, his music is just so unique. And you've talked about it before, Kevin, with due to him being a bassist and everything. Like that's the focal point of it all, I guess.
I think that's how, and I apologize if I'm getting it wrong, but I feel like I remember him saying that's how he starts writing his tunes. Like he'll sit down with his bass, come up with a riff, and then, enter that into the code and then build the song around that. So it does definitely wind up being sort of the meat of the composition.
So as is very apparent, we are both kind of larger fans of this game, although in true Lizard fashion, this is more you than me. What are some of the most memorable moments in the game for you?
Well, I don't want to be an asshole, but I will say that the most memorable moment is what happens at the end. And I can't wait for people to get there and experience that. And I want to know what they think, because it is not at all.
It was all a dream, wasn't
it? No.
Thanks, M. Night.
But that's what we need. It is not what you expect. But I would say other memorable moments, when you find there's a pickaxe in the game that you can pick up on the second floor, and then you start coming across walls that are slightly cracked.
There's one on the first floor.
Is there?
Oh, yeah.
Are you sure?
Well, at least in the version I played.
Okay. Well, yeah, you can use the pickaxe to break through walls, and there's, sometimes stuff hidden in there. But I think my favorite thing is finding a wall that you can walk through.
Ooh.
It just feels it feels like you've stumbled upon something really secretive and special. Like it's like, oh, what's back here? And then you have to kind of like figure out how to map it on your map, and how do I identify this in the future? But like there are really cool things that you can find that reward exploration.
Yeah, that's the hard part about a Rob game, is there's several memorable moments, and like the music like sticks in my head for days. The combat is unique and interesting, frustrating at times, but if you're playing with a modified Virtual Boy controller, it's quite pleasant. Two-tone, but I think the most interesting thing to me was finally having an excuse to break out that graph paper and make a map.
Yep,
and. I mean, you not a lot of games you finish and you have something physical to show for it. And
I sort of cheapened out. Like when I started playing it for the first time, I used graph paper, and I messed up so many times that I said there has to be in I guess it was 27. No, it was probably 2018 when I played it for the first time. There has to be a modern way to do this. So I like searched for a program on the internet that would allow me to create maps digitally, so if I screw up I can just delete that square, and I did find something. I don't remember what it's called, dungeoneering something or other, but yeah, like being able to create a map without fear of screwing up really helped me out, because I made so many damn mistakes.
The next episode's intro topic will be how Kevin's a sellout. Bracing everyone for that now.
Well, I do what I have to do to get through a game.
And this game in particular, would you replay it?
Oh, hell yes. Would and have. When you have the maps done, like I said earlier, you know where all the enemies are, so you can sort of challenge yourself like, okay, this time I want to get through the game without using a revive. And, this time I want to get through the game without using a single torch. Because once you have the map, you don't need the torches to see where you are, right?
Oh, nice.
But once you start introducing teleporters into the game that transport you to a completely random spot, it's tough, because even if you have a map, you're like, oh crap, like which square did that send me to? I didn't write that down. So, man, it's so, some of the levels get so sprawling and huge. He does a very good job of making you feel disoriented.
One of my biggest issues with replayability in homebrews in general, games in general, but particularly homebrews, because that's what we cover, is that you can find everything the first time, or you often do. Like, there's no secrets. Like, they're still finding secrets in Mario.
Yeah.
The first one. And do you feel as though you've found everything in Estoscerro, or do you think that there's stuff still hidden and lurking behind those corners?
I know for a fact I have not found everything, because Rob has asked me, hey, did you find so-and-so? And I'm like, what? What's that? So when you come into those squares where God is speaking to you, Zekrom, he gives you riddles, and those riddles aren't just gibberish. Like, they could actually lead you to a hidden corridor, somewhere.
Yeah, looking peninsula east.
Yeah.
Grumble, grumble.
Oh, man. But yeah, these riddles aren't bad because of bad translation. He crafts them very well.
Yeah, I don't think I've scratched the surface of Estoscerro, but I know that there is... Rob as a dev he's an interesting, crazy guy who hides stuff, and he gets a thrill out of you not finding everything, so he's going to put stuff in there.
Yeah, I love the thought and effort he puts into his games. I mean, you can really tell that a lot of love went into these.
The few people match his talent, and I hate that he's going to listen to this and hear that and get his little blush moment going, but he's so modest.
God, he's going to tell us he loves us again.
Oh, I hate when he tells us he loves us. That's always weird. But yeah, it's a great game. It's frustrating because of the combat. Like, I'll give it that. Like, that to me it's difficult to grasp, and it's taken me a long time to get comfortable with it. But even I've made progress, and I suck at games. So
yeah, I think that sort of falls along the same line as his Black Box Challenge. Like, when I first played Black Box Challenge...
Spoiler alerts, I haven't played it yet.
Well, I mean, this isn't going to spoil anything. It's the same kind of thing. Like, combat at first doesn't make any sense. You're like, what's going on? But after you sort of understand how to do it, it feels so perfect. By the end of the game, you're like, something special just happened. And it isn't like something like that doesn't come out of many people, but Rob consistently has this unique, amazing experiences that he's putting out for people to play.
Well, there's this weird temptation as a programmer, like when you're sitting there with the code and you're sitting there with the controls and you have a lot of time on your hands and you want to be sort of original. You're like, what if I made the player do this to, like, press a button? Like, you come up with these really weird, crazy schemes that are very obtuse and difficult to grasp.
You throw obtuse in everywhere you can, don't you?
I've just gotten so used to it now. But yeah, I mean, look at NES Cape. It's very obtuse, and the control scheme is just horrid.
All right.
But Rob, the way that he does them, even if it doesn't make sense at first, it's actually playable.
Yeah,
and I love them. Yeah.
Any day that you can get a developer of a respective game on your podcast to talk to you directly, it's always a treat. But actually getting someone who has inspired you for a number of years directly, and whose games you consider among your favorites.
I get that every week, don't I?
Oh, I'm not talking about you, Beau.
Oh, I mean, okay. All right. Different caliber of people here.
Yes, I'm talking about good developers.
Oh!
There it is. All right, but here today, we are lucky enough to actually have Rob from Sly Dog Studios on to talk to directly about his sort of process and inspirations for Candelabra Estoscerro. Rob, are you here with us today?
Oh, yes, please.
Are you snapping? Who's snapping?
That was me.
It's not me.
So you are here.
I is. Howdy.
Are you snapping because I spoke like a beatnik? Like, what's that about?
I don't know. I just started doing the Lone Ranger gallop thingy.
Oh, okay. So you weren't snapping like you were at a poetry reading.
I've had a screwdriver and a half. All right.
Oh boy. No, he's snapping like we're in a burned out, dock and doing this recording all together.
Is that what one does? Oh, okay. This is off to a very good start.
Always.
Rob, Did you or did you not program Candelabra Estoscerro?
Guilty.
Okay.
Behind the Candelabra Estoscerro.
Dun dun dun.
Oh wow, that one hurts. We'll just move on from that.
That's when I would insert my cricket sound effect.
Oh, if you could never do that again, I'd be happy.
Yeah, I won't. Don't worry.
Did you end up taking those out?
Oh no, they stayed in for sure.
Oh, that worries me. Okay, so
I don't think anyone commented on it either. So
they didn't want to shame you.
I don't. Yeah, I appreciate that because it was pretty gaudy.
Anyways, so Rob, going behind this candelabra, as we'll call it, of your series Candelabra, you have created a brace of conies here, a masterful set of games, and why? Can you tell us, why are you making so many games in the same series about the same things in so many different genres? Where did this all come from?
God. This is one of those things that always has a lot of answers to. There's it's I can't even really pin down, like, because the original concept of Estoscerro was to be a dungeon crawler that was fast paced. And, so it was like an RPG game that you're supposed to be able to beat within one sitting, like Ninja Gaiden, like just run through it. But,
yeah, because that happens.
Yeah. Only if you're wrong.
Well. And, but that was the main concept behind it, like a dungeon crawler, 3D maze that you could, navigate fairly quickly. And, it was probably going to be around 2 hours long, max. I mean, not even that long was what my plans were. I just didn't know how people would be able to, map out a 3D maze. But, I wanted it to be a fast-paced thing. But then, in the middle of developing it, I decided that I wanted to make, more of a platform game, and that's when we switched to Mad Wizard.
Ah.
And, in the middle of developing that, I was like, you know what? Why don't we make this wizard the same one from Estoscerro?
Oh, okay.
That third character on the far right.
Yeah.
Why don't we make that him? This will be Heckle. So it started going from there, and it wasn't even solidified after Mad Wizard that it was going to be a huge series. Where I really decided that I wanted to make it a bigger series was during the Rise of Amundus. I was like, okay, yeah, let's make it a really big series.
Well, I mean, it makes sense because you had, Heckle from the Mad Wizard, whose story you had already started, programming at that point when you decided that he was going to be part of Candelabra. And then when you look at these other two characters, you want to know what their backstories are too.
Right. And and where a lot of that comes from is there's a couple of different places. One thing is the Shenmue, what was supposed to be the Shenmue series. Like that guy had planned like massive amounts of games.
Oh,
for
you're
Shenmue.
talking 128-bit series, Dreamcast.
Yes. Like that guy had planned like a bunch of games. And that was something that I always thought was like, interesting. He already has an idea of what he wants to do then, And, I was like, all right. Maybe, since I've already started down this path, maybe I'll just make it this big old world. And, at the time, the guy I was working with, he was going to be with me, and we were both going to work together on it. And, another big aspect of influence, I guess, it comes from a book series called The Eternal Champion by Michael Moorcock.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a great last name.
I wish it were mine.
But
No,
but
Kevin Moorcock.
he wrote
that.
he
Just has such a ring to it.
Sorry, Rob. Proceed.
Insert your comments here.
I'm all
Oh,
flushed.
comments. Okay.
But yeah, not more of that. But yeah, so he wrote like a bunch of books about this thing called the Eternal Champion, and he would have different people that were like the Eternal Champion within these different, like, I guess you could call them realms or something. And it was like different places in time and stuff too, just this crazy, big, massive story that he had. But it was, like, not all of them intertwined either. But when they did intertwine, like, he had books where, like, the Vanishing Tower from the Elric saga. Elric was one of these champions, and the actual alternate to him, one of the alternates to him, when he wrote this book, he wrote a book about this guy, but then told that story from his point of view.
Oh, cool.
Instead of Elric's point of view. And I don't know, it's like, that's always been that's my favorite fantasy author.
Really? I have passed his books up on the shelf for 20 years now, and like been like, that's a weird last name, I'm not going to read him.
That's how I judge authors by, too, their last name.
I mean, yeah, of course.
He, like, especially the Elric saga and the Corum books. I really like Corum a lot too. Like, you should check them out, man. I think you'd really dig them.
This slightly conflicts with what I've heard about the Candelabra series before, where it was born out of your days as a dungeon master in the dark basements of Illinois. Is that?
No, you're thinking about Candelabra itself. Like,
there we go.
Yeah. Well, no, my forum name, Roth, comes from my old Dungeons and Dragons days. That was my character's
It'd be
name.
like having a character named Hank. Come on.
Now, were you the DM? Oh, I guess you weren't the DM if you had a character.
No. Yeah, I had a character.
Nice.
And, but yeah, that's where that came from, Roth. And I used to use the name Roth, Han, Heckle, and Hubs.
No shit.
Within NES games that I would play.
I knew there was more to this.
And
that's awesome.
Final Fantasy was the main one that I first played with all four of them named that. And
all white mages?
Hubs was the white mage, which is why she's going to look how she looks on Scarlet Matron. Heckle was the dark mage, which is why he's wearing blue.
Oh,
and then,
okay.
Yeah. Han was the red mage, which is why he's going to be more of a brownish armor-wielding guy, But you know, in Candelabra, he's not he doesn't like magic. He doesn't trust it.
So he's kind of worthless because he's a red mage?
Pretty much.
Rob, let me ask you a question. When you look at other game series, you kind of know when a new one comes out what you're gonna get from the game because you've played, you know, the other ones in the series and they're all somewhat similar, maybe using the same engine. What prompted you to create brand new genres? Well, I guess you're not creating genres, but you're using different genres for each of these games. Like, what is your reasoning behind that?
Well, number one, I want to try and make different kinds of games. And number two, each instance of a character can lend themselves to a different style of game. So, like, with Estoscerro, you know, it's all three. It could have been a top-down RPG with them. You know what I mean?
Beau would have been happy.
But I really,
would have been so happy.
I wanted to make a, standard dungeon crawler.
JRPG.
Very standard.
Unstandard dungeon crawler. But then, you know, each character is going to have their own abilities, and I think that lends themselves to a different style of gameplay anyway. And also, I like the fact that some games, like during the NES day, they weren't afraid to change things. Like, for instance, Mario 1 to Mario 2.
If you say Zelda
USA,
2, I will lose my stuff.
Zelda 1 to Zelda 2.
Losing it.
Yeah.
Do you think that they... I mean, I guess in the end it doesn't matter, but do you think that they actually, like, said, okay, let's go out of our comfort zone to make this Mario 2, or did they say, oh, we have this game, let's just slap some Mario sprites on it and release it because we want to put this out? I don't think that's a good example.
No, not that one, Zelda 2.
But either which way, it don't matter.
Oh, I will.
It's like, because they took a leap to a different style. You know what I mean?
That's true.
They're like, here's a different style. Like, they released the same style in Japan with Mario 2 itself.
Yeah.
And when people play it now, like, a lot of people are like, yeah, it's fun for the challenge. I think it's a very boring game myself.
But it has wind.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, but it's challenging, so they like that. But a lot of folks are also like, yeah, but what we got, I think, was better because who knows where Mario would have went if we would have got Mario 2 and been like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because it had exactly the same graphics.
Oh, yeah. Mario 2 USA is like my favorite Mario, so you can back off of that.
It's an amazing game.
We were talking about Zelda 2 and the atrocity that is, though, last I checked.
It's not bad.
Atrocity?
Okay.
Oh, I need you to explain yourself.
Candelabra. I hear that there's this mad wizard, there's this Scarlet Matron, and there's this Warlord Slayer. And they have come together to band together, to use that word again, on this quest. Together. Thank you. Your vision. How do you deal with the weight of that large of a series hanging on you to do 12 games when you're only at number 2?
You just program it. I don't know. The only weight on me is that I want to get them done. You know what I mean?
That's a way, yes.
And do you think that you actually will? Like, I know that you want to, but do you think that it's something that you will accomplish?
It's feasible. It's just a matter of doing it, and I think I will. I hope so. The hardest part is I think it's just life in general, that makes it hard. Like, because you only get so much time, even when you're like the stay-at-home person that takes care of the kid, and it feels like you only get so much time. Now. Hey,
I don't add sound effects.
I want a violin.
Ooh, noted. But you've done so well. Like, you had this vision, and you've already done 3 games. I know there's a lot more, but like a lot of us sit there and we go, if I can make a sequel to this and a sequel to that, maybe a prequel here, like. Maybe this one game would kind of make sense if I did these 6 other games. Like, you've already done 3 of them and are working actively on the 4th. Like,
right.
And it's not even like you're just putting out whatever you can come up with, though. Like, you're like putting out consistently good games. Let's talk about your music creation process. The music in this game is so badass. When you sit down to compose a tune, like, what's your process like?
It varies. Sometimes I'm a bass player, so sometimes I pick up my bass and I come up with a little something, and then I'll put it into the ROM. I'll type it in with hex and all that, and play it back, and then I'll go from there. Sometimes I'll just start straight off. I'll think of like a note, and just any note. I'll be like, I'm going to start with D, and, and I'll just type that in, and then I'll, think of, basic theory and go with different rhythms, and then I'll play it back, and I'll go, oh, okay. And it just depends on what my mood is like,
That's so funny. Like, I obviously I've heard of people just like, I have this melody in my head, I'm going to try typing in these notes. Oh, maybe I'll change the key. I've never heard of anyone saying, well, A sharp, that's what I'm starting with on this song, and going from there. That's so hilarious.
There's a few that I tend to try and stick with, especially with Candelabra. It's not an exact key or anything, but there's certain notes that I kind of lean toward, and just to try and keep a familiar feel, and yeah.
So this is one of the weird things. I just want to clarify this while we're here, because this sets you at a whole different level from the Muggles. You are actually writing your music in hex, yes?
Yeah.
You're not using those FAMI trackers and...
Oh, no. No. Dragon SF is the one I use. The, what do you call it? Engine. The engine I use.
So it's not a tracker?
No, it's just you input the hex.
I told you he's the Mad Wizard.
How? How could you
Exactly,
even know what
how?
that's going to sound like?
Well, like when you play your bass, you know what it's going to sound like.
Well,
just
when
gotta
I
do
play
it.
my bass, okay.
And then even without that, like you know what the notes are. You know what I mean? You're like, okay, I know some key stuff.
Yeah.
So you start with a few things, and you're like, no, yeah, okay, yeah, that, no.
Put a little minor third here, augmented fifth here.
Yeah,
I get you.
I'll harmonize here.
Oh yeah.
Let me try the major third.
I get both of you. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let me ask you another question. It's related to music. Since we're here right now, the ending song when you beat the Mad Wizard is what it is. The title song for Candelabra Estoscerro is that same song. Was that a conscious decision to tie the games together, or what?
Not really.
Oh.
Good.
Well, a little bit. Well, look, a little bit. If I had it to do over, I would make the Mad Wizard's ending song the same ending song as what you hear on Estoscerro at the end.
Okay.
But taking a situation that I wish I could, switch up a little bit, I've decided to change the idea of what you hear on the title screen for Estoscerro for what that is, and that's something that'll be revealed down the pike.
Oh,
I love Rob's mysteries. I got one other question for you, and Kevin probably has 10 others, but I have one more in particular.
11.
Fine. So, Estoscerro's been on Kickstarter now for 20 days. It's got about 7 to 9 left because I can't really count, and, well, by the time this goes to air, it won't matter anyways because it'll be after that. But, what are your thoughts on, seeing the Kickstarter?
I'm amazed. I never imagined that a dungeon crawler would have the support of what it is over 200 backers now.
Yeah.
Yeah. 220.
Yeah. I did not ever foresee people being like, "Oh, dungeon crawler, okay,"
I can get behind that.
Yeah, my whole experience online in the NES milieu,
very nice,
is that people shied away from it for the most part. They didn't like 3D mazes. They would say, "Oh, Lone Ranger was cool except for those 3D mazes. Go-Go 13 was cool except for those 3D mazes. I like Dungeon Magic except it's all 3D mazes."
It's a great title screen though.
Yeah, but yeah, so it's pretty cool to see. I'm like, interesting. All right, that's cool.
Well, everybody loved the demo you released a couple Aprils ago.
Oh, you can has magic.
I can has not hear you. They can find it themselves. It's in the show notes.
Okay.
And if this one's not, I guess I will. Yeah, I'll put it there. Whatever. So I got two more basic questions for you. And this goes back to sort of a gameplay.
I've never programmed in BASIC.
No.
All right. Have you smoked basics?
I have.
Yes. All right. So this is a sort of a game design choice. When you think of a dungeon crawler, you think of, party management. You have to keep track of who has what weapon. You come across another weapon. You have to see if it's better than the weapon you're carrying, a la Swords and Serpents. When you, in Estoscerro, you will occasionally, when you defeat some enemies, you will be rewarded something. And if it is a weapon or a piece of armor, it is immediately better than what you already have because it is the next progression of, whatever item you're having. Was that because you were trying to keep it streamlined with your idea of sitting down to get through the game quickly? Or was it just easier to program that way? What was your reasoning behind that?
The former, exactly what you said.
Okay.
I wanted it to be where you would just go through the game and you don't have to go through all this management stuff. The only management stuff you would have to do is what magic does Hubs and Heckle have equipped at this point? You know what I mean?
No, I love that. It really opens up the door to focus on the task at hand, clearing the floor, defeating whatever enemies are in front of you at the time. You don't have to worry about, do I have the best weapon that I can have right now? Because you do. Like, you don't have to worry about all that nonsense. Oh, I can only carry 3 things. Let me give this item to this other guy so I can have room to pick up this thing. Like, it's Swords and Serpents, I think, and Sweet Home comes to mind. I know that's not a dungeon crawler, but that has such limited inventory that you have to constantly shuffle, and it's like a pain in the ass. I just want to experience the game, and I think that is one of the most beautiful things about Candelabra Estoscerro. You can just sit down, not worry about that stuff. You just sit down and enjoy the game.
Oh, not a JRPG player, are you?
No.
Well, speaking of Swords and Serpents, that was a big influence on this game. Like,
oh man, so good.
Like the layout, like just the layout of the game itself, you know, with the 3 different bottoms your characters. Over on the right, you see the health bars of the enemies. On the left is the maze itself. Mm-hmm. You know, that was a big influence. The first boss even played a hand in part of this story of Candelabra. So. That game was a huge influence on me.
Well, let's talk about we don't talk about like stuff from an actual like programming standpoint too often in this podcast because we like to keep it kind of easy to digest for everyone. But talk about when you programmed the actual dungeon maze, the 3D part of this game. How do you redraw that whole scene each time someone moves? Like, how is that drawn from a programming perspective?
Nerd alert.
Okay. Like, so when you're in the maze and you move forward, for instance, how do I draw the tiles?
Yeah, like if someone wanted to create, say, their own dungeon crawler, what sort of like what things would they have to consider when drawing the 3D maze part?
Yes, help me rip this off.
One of the What I wanted to do was make movement apparent. So, which doesn't come through the whole time because, okay, I'll explain why too. This also happened in like Golgo 13 Moffat Conspiracy, which I'll tie into it. Okay, so when you move forward, I wanted the idea of, well, you're moving forward, right? I didn't want it to just, change the screen. So I actively made it to where the middle, it loads from the middle and to the left and to the right at the same time when you move forward. So it's like, zoop, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And you can actually see it doing it. So it gives that momentum. It has a feel of momentum.
Right.
And when you move left or right, I made it to where it loads in that direction, so it's almost like turning your head in that direction. Oh. And that idea came from, on the NES, it was Wizardry or Dungeon Magic, I cannot remember which one, but what they did was they loaded it off screen, and when you turn, they would scroll to the next name table in that direction.
Oh, that's cool.
So that was the influence for that. And then when it comes to turning around, I was like, well, if you're going to turn around, you want to make sure like if you accidentally hit a direction and you see it on screen, I want you to know that you turned around. So I made it like go black. You know what I mean? So it's obvious that you turned around and didn't go forward or turn left or right.
So it turns black and then it loads.
Yeah, and then you see where you're at.
Huh? That's so cool that you put. Like I've played through it a few times and I don't even think now that I stop and analyze it, like I think I've seen it, but it just seems so natural. That's really cool that you put that much thought into it.
Well, I'm glad it feels natural,
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, we've talked about music. Do you have... I want to feature some music for this game because I really want to showcase how each song, each piece from each floor kind of builds upon the previous iteration. Like, do you have any specific music from this game that you would like to feature? You can either pick like 2 battle, like boss songs, or 2 floor songs.
I think if I had to pick things,
you do.
I would.
Well played.
Since I have to pick things, I would say floor 2 music and floor 4 music, or floor 2 boss and floor 4 boss. But I'd also like to mention, I don't see this is something I like to do. I've done it on a couple of games. Like, for instance, the enemies. When you go into a regular enemy battle on Estoscerro, like, all of the music is different on each floor, but there's a theme to it. Like, the solo part is always the same, but the rhythm is different. And I did something similar on Black Box Challenge. The overworld music, there's 3 different overworld musics you can choose from Dr. Was it Dr. Smile? Mr. Smile? Can't remember his name. But Noise Channel, you know, the drums.
Yeah.
The drums are the same on all 3 songs, and everything else is different. Because I thought that would help tie it all together and still sound good.
Yeah,
and
there's that familiar theme that you subconsciously know sounds, you know, familiar, but then you got the new stuff on top of it.
Yeah, and that's what I did with the all the enemy fights on Estoscerro. I even did the same thing on the demo for Estoscerro. Kept the same theme but changed the rhythm.
Yeah, you can has beats.
Yes, can has.
Well, let's listen to these beats, all right? Check out this music from Candelabra Estoscerro. Thanks for coming on, Rob.
Oh, hey, thanks for having me.
So, what do we want to talk about the Kickstarter now? Like, what sort of release formats, different editions? Like, what's the plan for releasing this game?
Well, if you want to go play the game right now, You can download the ROM from 2014, I think. He decided he was done with the game. Things were taking too long, and he released a ROM on Nintendo Age. You can go find it and have a good little laugh there. And you'll have to go download it to figure out what I mean. But
I actually didn't know what you were talking about until you put that little tagline at the end. So yeah, now it makes sense.
oh, that's cute. But so yes, Estoscerro is finally ready to see real physical production release. And our good friend Kevbot, other Kevin, as I like to call him.
Yeah.
Because we have like 6 names in the community. There are like 7 Toms, 50 Kevins, a bunch of Tims. It's just diversity. We need diversity. But other Kevin, he is helping to get it to market. It's being released through him. He does the homebrew highlights arcade cabinets at the various shows. They're these little tiny arcade cabinets that are very small, but they hold games in them. And on the Kickstarter, he has several tiers. You can just get Estoscerro ROM release. Yes, a ROM release. People are doing that these days. If you just want to play it on the Power Pack or an EverDrive or on, Nesticle or whatever. Actually, it won't run on Nesticle, but the others it'll run on. And he's doing that. Then you can get a cart only. You can get a full CIB complete in box. And you can also get the trilogy of games that has been released. That'd be The Mad Wizard, Rise of Amandus, and Estoscerro, all in black box format, like with black box style art.
That's cool.
And 6 games for $180 is not, in my mind, terrible. That's $60 a game. And Rise of Amandus and The Mad Wizard were available for years on Retro USB. And they were all discontinued last year, and so
they never came with boxes unless you ordered them separately from NES City or whatever.
Yeah, this is like the first CIB release of those. Yeah. Even I'm tempted to go get yet another copy because that black box art is sexy.
It is sexy.
And yeah, so there's a few options. I think he's going to offer it after the Kickstarter, of course. Anything else you want to add there?
A couple things.
I figured because you were silent.
The game has already funded, so it's doing well. We're very, very happy to see that because the one thing we always say about Rob's games is like not enough people know that they exist and have played them. Like they're just so good. So seeing this game get funded as well as it's doing, it's very nice to see. But the most important and exciting thing that I think is that Kev is putting shirts out. Estoscerro shirts. I want to wear my love for this game outside of my basement.
Oh, goodness. I just had to watch him in an Incident t-shirt the other day, which was just sad.
I love when he wears that. We usually wear it on the same day at the expos.
Oh, goodness.
My worry is when I put out the Any Escape Kickstarter, people are going to go, Kevin, didn't he already do a Kickstarter? Who is this guy? So might need to change my name.
Because you all have the same name.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah, so it's on Kickstarter. If you can't find it, email Kevin Hanley. He will tell you where to go find it.
And I'll put it in the show notes.
I've never actually looked at the show notes. You always say I'm going to put this or that in the show notes, and I don't think you put anything
I have always put everything I say I'm going to put there in the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
Never let anyone down in that regard.
No, they haven't complained yet.
That's true.
You should complain to Kevin Hanley at 8 Ton of Glaciers on Twitter and various other places around the interwebs. But we are going to talk with Kev here because it's kind of weird, like in the whole publisher developer thing. Like some people just want to make games and they need help getting them to market, and that's where the publisher tends to come in. And so Kev has put out several games over the years. He's put out a lot of stuff by Vectrex28 and a few other people. He's done his Scare Cart. Geez, he's actually done a lot now that I think about it and see it all at once.
He's been around the block.
Yeah, and he's a great guy. Like he's easy to work with. He's friendly. He gives me a ride to pretty much every convention. So we get like 20 hours in the car together, and he's sick of me. But yeah, we're going to bring him on and sort of see why and how and where and what and other interrogatives.
2 Kevins on the same podcast?
Oh, shoot. It's like that thing where you see each other and the world explodes.
Yeah.
Oh, Back to the Future.
All right, I guess we can bring him on.
Yeah, I guess. And so, despite our better judgment, we have decided to bring on, as I call him, Other Kevin, to talk about the Kickstarter. So, like we said, it's one thing to actually develop a game, to spend years, months, maybe a few hours programming this giant masterpiece that becomes something like Candelabra Estoscerro. It is a completely different animal to actually release it. So we are going to talk with Kev here, Kev, you've done quite a bit in the community. Do you want to kind of give us a bit of your background, and then we'll dive into Estoscerro?
Sure. Yeah, it's definitely not as extensive as your guys's. Obviously, I can't program or do music or do anything that's actually what I would consider advantageous. But yeah, I've helped with some projects here. They're either beta testing or released some projects in the past that we won't name.
No, name drop.
And from MagFest.
Yeah. You need to name drop. People need to know what you've been involved with. So tell us.
I helped with a few releases early on, Kami Killer, which was interesting, and then Cornball Cocksuckers, which you guys might end up bleeping that out, but
no,
Nope.
Never.
No?
Kevin rates these episodes explicit and R because he swears too much. So
Oh, yeah. I let
good.
it ride, my friend.
oh, well, then that's perfect. I belong here.
Yeah, one of us.
Yeah, yeah. I helped release that one, and then ended up with the ROM rights for that. So I've made a good handful of those, and then helped Beau with a few projects here and there, like the 0 to X boxes. That's about it. I mean, I helped.
No, you did. You'd want to focus on things like maybe the scare cart.
Yeah, the scare cart. That's a fun one. That had an interesting 2018.
Awkward.
Okay, beyond 2018.
No, the scare cart was kind of fun. It's different. I wanted to do something different. I can't program, so I was at the mercy of a lot of other people. Vec programmed the first couple, and then because 15 and 16, and then we did a version of the incident for 17, which is my favorite one.
My favorite too.
Yeah, obviously it's hard to go wrong with the incident. Although Nescape's pretty badass too, and Sneak and Peek. That one.
That's the
You know
best.
what? We could do like a Sneak and Peek clone. That would be.
We should have him on all the time.
Because he's bringing in the sneak and peek jokes?
Oh yeah, he knows.
He knows.
He always
something
knows.
15 copies of ET. Also, I don't know how any of that shit happens.
Yes, you've always been there. You're in the background, seemingly, but really you're in the foreground. Anyways, the point being, you've done a lot in the community. You toted around to various conventions over the years, these tiny, miniature, you gotta kind of like stand on your knees to play them arcade cabinets with the slogan Kevbot's Homebrew Highlights. And all of this preface is just a big indication of the fact that we have waited like 2 years to actually have you on. I'm sorry about that. And you've kind of like introduced large members of the community that go to these things to homebrews through these cabinets. Can you kind of tell us about what that project's been about and how that has, involved you in the homebrew community over the years?
Yeah, so I liked homebrews, obviously. Got into them, started collecting Retro Zone, or now Retro USB games. Some of those were repros also, but fell in love with homebrews and decided it would be fun and worthwhile to take these games to different expos and events and show them off and try to bring light to the to the homebrew community outside of Nintendo Age. Now, Nintendo Age has a ridiculous following for homebrews, and over the last little while, we've seen quite the expanse outside of Nintendo Age. I'm not going to say that Homebrew Highlights Cabs did that, but they may have contributed.
But you're not saying that.
Well, they may have contributed to it a little bit, but really, in the big picture, no. But it's fun. It brings people together. I've enjoyed it because I get to try out different games, and I've got to meet a lot of really cool people just going to these different events, and I guess making a reason for me to go to some of these events.
We appreciate it also because a lot of times we as developers aren't very good at marketing ourselves or getting the word out that, oh, I've made this cool game. So the fact that you would take it upon yourself to reach out to us and say, hey, would you like me to showcase your game at these various expos? It helps considerably. So we do thank you for that.
Oh, yeah, not a problem. It's gotten me more involved as well. And I've got Estoscerro on Kickstarter right now. It's the biggest project that I've been part of because before then was here, help me assemble 20 copies of Kevin Power, or hey, let's do this 10 cart run of this Ninja Turtles game that's a 4-in-1, and then Console Killer, which is something completely different.
You are currently doing something for this Estoscerro campaign. Can you tell us a bit about that?
So I'm publishing Candelabra Estoscerro. I got the opportunity to do it from Rob, and I kind of took it and ran with it. I've asked a lot of people for help because I've never done a Kickstarter campaign before. Asked for a lot of suggestions, and still apparently messed some of it up. But no, it's fun. I got one of my buddies locally to help me with some artwork, and the music in Estoscerro was already awesome, so we just used that for everything.
I've heard a few good things about the music, yes.
The music is awesome. So we've used the music in like the commercial and got the Kickstarter put together, and it's doing a lot. It's doing extremely well right now.
So how did you get together with Rob and actually acquire these rights? Did you sit down over a beer and say, hey, I really like this game. Can I publish it for you? How did that whole thing transpire?
Well, Rob was having a hard time deciding exactly what he wanted to do with the game. And I know you guys and I had talked to him about helping him with different aspects of publishing it. And there wasn't a lot of interest in that. So basically I threw a number at Rob, and at first he said no. And then he had a chance to talk with his wife about it. And I got a message a little I'm going to say probably a few days later, and asked if the offer was still on the table, which it was. So took me a little bit longer than expected to actually get down there and pay for it and do everything in person. But we made it work, and it's been history since, basically.
Well, I'm glad that you did, because I've played this game for a couple of years now, and it does deserve to be seen. So the fact that it's getting such a wide release and getting this kind of exposure and this kind of excitement that's come with that, it's been great to see, and I'm very glad.
Me too. I my whole fear about doing this was giving it giving it a release to do it justice, because it's that good. But I'm hoping, I know you have a Kickstarter coming up soon, Kevin.
I hope so.
I was thinking maybe we would be able to piggyback off one another, but I think we're probably cutting it close to time on that one.
I don't want to say for better or worse, only for better. You have made available again things like the Mad Wizard and the Rise of Amandus, and the Rise of Amandus is amazing. So, is that going to be something that's offered post Kickstarter? Is it just during Kickstarter? Is this people's only chance in the 5 days they have after they hear this episode?
Ooh, that's a good question.
That
it's one that I need to know.
That's a good question because that's something that hasn't been discussed yet.
Okay.
Interesting.
All right. So if you want to see more of the rise of Amandus, and I do, you will email other Kevin at hirschbergen.aol.net.
I think you're
Well.net.
Hirschbergen at AOL.net.
Beau's new thing
Yeah.
is just butchering email addresses and making them up
No.
on the fly.
Really, you just need to look in the show notes, and Kevin will have a link
There it is.
where you can contact other Kevin, and it'll be perfect. So yeah, thanks for coming on. Thanks for chatting with us about this new game. Sorry it's taken so long for you to get you on. I mean, like, there was just so many things that you've done in the community that it's there's a lot there.
See you guys.
So do you want to talk about what you've been up to?
Yeah, I guess a few things have been going on in life.
Tell me these things.
I am still recovering from something they call PAX East.
Oh man, you took the plunge and went to it.
I did.
And you worked it.
I did. Well, I actually worked it. Yeah, the fellows from Pittsburgh, Greg and Tim, who run Retrotainment, the Haunted Games, Full Quiet, all that garbage. They asked if I would come out and work the show for them. And I used to work home and garden shows because my dad ran a storage shed company. And so good college money right there. 50 hours in 4 days or whatever it comes out to. Because these shows are long. And so, yeah, I went and we're talking with, I've only ever been to the retro game shows, and PAX is apparently kind of a big deal.
Yeah?
Yeah, there's a lot of people.
I saw pictures and it looked pretty intimidating.
I feel like it's 90,000 people come through there.
God.
And I have no frame of reference other than I've heard that PRGE is 30,000 people, and that's the biggest show I've ever been to.
Oh my God. And
besides MagFest, yeah.
And that feels busy, so I can't even imagine.
Oh, this was nonstop. You were talking to people every second. And
did you lose your voice?
After the first 6 hours, yeah, I was done. I was sucking cough drops like a Coke addict.
Damn.
I assume Coke addicts eat a lot of cough drops, but I just assume why not? They got nothing else to do. But
absolutely.
So I was just at PAX East, and that was very interesting to see an industry show. We were this little booth doing this weird thing, but less than 50 yards away was Nintendo's near city block of everything.
I hear you saw a couple mild celebrities there.
I did, and it's weird. I'm not into the YouTube, if that has not become clear yet. And so when we go to these shows, they're like, "Oh, that's so and so. He runs this show," and I'm like, "What do I care? It's just some guy. He's about my age. He's got more hair than me. Big deal."
Well, that's everyone, right? Except for me. Wah wah.
Ah, there it is. But this time, a few people came up, and I'm talking with them, and I'm giving them the spiel, and they ask me, because I was there for somebody else's company, and I was, talking their stuff, and they're like, "So you program these?" I was like, "No, I actually run my own little deal, which is much smaller, but I do all my programming, sales, design, everything." They're like, "Oh, I designed this game," and I'm like, "Wow, oh." Things just got real. It's you designed Killer Queen? That's neat.
That's crazy. I still can't believe you got to meet that guy.
That was a hoot. I wasn't expecting it. And it was just this guy comes up and we're just shooting the breeze. And suddenly, I mean, he didn't name drop himself, obviously, but he was like, "Yeah, I got that little booth over there." I'm like, that's not a little booth. And you made one of the coolest games that I've played in the last decade.
But you also saw the guy who made Super Meat Boy, right? From afar.
I saw him from afar. I was a little too nervous to go see him because I watched the Indie Gamer movie.
Yeah.
Which I don't watch a lot of movies, so it'd be like watching a B-rated porno and being like, "Oh, I know you. I shouldn't talk to you because, well," and I guess that's sort of different, but
right. You can talk, just don't look him in the eye.
Yeah. Yeah, the Super Meat Boy guy, and he was like setting up and like eating a sub, and I was like, I know you, but you don't know me, which is kind of weird. There was him. There was some guy that like ran a publishing studio, and it was like, shoot, you've put out like a bunch of the games I actually like, and I'm going to sell you this for $60. Okay. I should be giving it to you, but instead I'm taking your money for a change, which is nice.
Hey, your kids got to eat, Beau.
Yes, the kids I don't have need to eat. But yeah, PAX, it was an interesting, wonderful, fascinating experience to see. I hate to say it, but a real show. And that was another thing. All these college kids kept coming up to me and being like, so this is really interesting. You're like a real programmer. And I'm like, well, you clearly do some programming. And they're like, yeah, I work for, Microsoft, and I work for Tesla, or I work for whoever. And I'm like, you're the real programmer. And they're like, no, I just get paid for it. Whatever you're doing is stuff that I don't understand. And I'm like, that's really strange.
That's fun. It's like, it's all about perspective. Like, what you're not doing seems like it's more legit than what you are doing. For everyone, it seems like.
Oh, it is. I mean, that's a fault of all people, but I wasn't really expecting. They were like, yeah, I had to take a class in assembly, and the professor was like, you'll never use this, so don't even bother. Just pass the class. And it's like, you can use it. It's here.
That's right. That's awesome. I don't know that I want to go to PAX. I mean, it sounds like it's a great experience, but it sounds so intense.
It's, again, if I hadn't worked a bunch of home and garden shows, it probably would have been, but
yeah.
You're selling a ketchup popsicle to a lady in white gloves. That's really what it comes down to.
Got to make the sale.
Yeah, it's with all these things, it's the people you meet. And if you're really into like limited Switch stuff, it was all at the show for dirt cheap.
Oh, really?
I apparently didn't offer that to you. I'm so sorry right now.
Life goes on.
And I bought a bunch of games for my buddy, but yeah, that's kind of set me back in terms of my other stuff. I've, still writing and still programming, and I'm really excited to start kind of publicly showing people what the future is going to look like for Soul Goose Productions.
It's going to be exciting. I think it's a pretty huge step forward. The stuff that you're working on is light years ahead of what you've done. So I'm really excited for people to see it.
That's the hard part. I do so much of my stuff kind of in secret, and recently somebody leaked a video of what I've been doing into a chat, and some people were asking me about it, and it was like, oh, no, I'm not ready to talk about this yet. Thanks, Nathan.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Yeah, Nathan Talbert. I know you. But it was also very encouraging when people were like, others need to see this, and it's like, okay, and I'm kind of understand that, but I want to make it kind of presentable and, up to snuff, not just me rambling and doing stuff like I tend to do for these private things. So I'm
exactly.
ready.
You're making these videos for, your close friends to kind of show off. So you're not really thinking of how the general public is going to look at these and sort of understand them.
Well, and I don't preface a lot of things, like they just drop, and I'm only showing them to 4 or 5 people, and so they already know the context of them, and so I want to do something very special when I start to reveal the next project, which is
Swords and Runes 5.
4.
I know, I was joking.
Well, I have 5 planned out, but we don't need that was written like 15 years ago. We don't need to get into that right now.
All right.
What have you been doing? Kevin, you have way more exciting news than my rambling stories of meeting the legends.
Beau, it has been a very intense time over here at K-Han Games. We're celebrating our 10-year anniversary. No, I'm just kidding. Well, I guess I'm not, but
yeah, you are.
I have finished Any Escape. The game is done. The game has been submitted to Indiecade to be judged. Kind of terrifying, but
real peer review?
Yeah, it's a little intimidating to think about because when you submit it, you have to include a video playthrough and then like a trailer, and I had to like put all of these things together that I didn't consider ahead of time because I just was trying to finish the game by the deadline. And I literally finished the game like the morning of the deadline, and then I was like, oh crap, I have to do all these things now. So put together a gameplay video and a trailer and kind of just threw the stuff together. So that stuff wasn't quite as polished as I would have hoped to have been.
Play some Gary Jules?
Did not. You bring that up every single time I mention a video.
That's because your incident video, at least my wife was like, is that seriously Gary Jules playing right now? And it's like, yeah.
Hey, a lot of people liked that.
That video's amazing.
Thank you.
Anyways.
And very illegal.
I bring it up because I'm proud of your illegal activities. I mean, you're porting games, you're knocking stuff off, and you're using copyrighted music. Why not?
I'm a bootlegger.
I can do a hard time.
Yeah, so I got that off. But after I submitted it, some bugs popped up. I had a couple people play the game. RetroMog found a couple bugs, and I've sort of
give
brought...
Sergio a shout out.
Oh yeah, I was gonna get to that. Like I've brought different people on at different times, and all of them have found bugs in different places because everyone sort of plays the game differently, which has been great because it's really brought things to light that I would have possibly never found. So I've just been sort of patching the game as I can. Every time I bring a new tester on, they find new things. So right now, as it sits, I think it's done, barring any more bugs that have been found. So I've switched my focus to sort of preparing for the Kickstarter. I've acquired a lot of parts, items that can be found in the game. I've bought real-life versions of for my Kickstarter commercial, which I have a pretty good idea of what I'm going to do. I just hope I can pull it off. So after I get that filmed, and I've already gotten the Kickstarter typed up, so I just need to sort of drop some graphics in there, put the video in there. Then it'll be sort of, I'm going to throw it out to the wolves and see if they want to eat, I just hope that... I hope that the game goes over well. Everyone that's played it seems to have enjoyed it, so I'm hoping that the general, consensus of people who come upon the Kickstarter page, think it looks interesting and want to give it a try. But the fact that the game's done, I can sort of start reflecting on the process of, how quickly it came together, how intense the work was, how great the art is and the music. Like, everything about the game just feels really complete and polished. So I just hope that translates when people start playing it. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm very proud. It's probably the game I'm most proud of at this point. So I hope that in 20 years, when people think of when people come across your homebrew book and they pop it open and they see, oh, look at these different people. Oh, here's this guy Kevin. Oh yeah, he made that Any Escape game. That is his legacy.
It's hard because between the worn out places and the pretty faces, that's a Gary Jules reference. It's a very obtuse game. Like it's hard to just pick up and play.
I want to just grab your face and just like slam it into a wall.
I'm so glad that we are across a couple thousand miles here.
And no one knows that this obtuse reference is like an inside joke. They're just like, why does he keep saying that?
Well, it's just going to build into the legend, like the Kahan Army and Sneak and Peek. Yeah. Kevin makes obtuse games.
It's an obtuse joke. So, I mean, he just... I don't know.
Ooh, very nice. But no, it is like it's not, and I'm gonna speak here about the game that we are probably going to cover in the next episode, which I've never wanted this podcast to be about what is currently happening. It's I don't want this to be a mouthpiece for projects that are coming out and Kickstarters and all that, but Estoscerro is a game that we are both very close to. I mean, we witnessed the development in kind of a private chat. We saw the different builds. We know both the person who programmed it, the person who's putting it out, and we've waited 6 years for it.
Yeah, a long time.
5 years. And then NES Cape, which is NES Cape, like you're wearing a cape that looks like a cartridge. NES Cape.
Yes, that's what that means.
I am the biggest fan of Kevin Hanley doing original work. He does great ports. I'm not gonna lie. I never would have played Larry were it not for him. Frogger, wonderful.
Sneak Peek.
Sneak and Peek. E.T. No, Incident was original. You got like 20 others. Got Nothing Good Can Come of This. Several others. I mean, he does wonderful ports, but NES Cape it's kind of your masterpiece, buddy.
That is my hope. I want this game to do well, and I want people to play it.
And we never talk about what we're going to talk about next episode, but it's gonna be NES Cape.
Yeah. And
he may virtually strangle me into saying it the correct way, but
like GIF.
GIF. It's GIF. But yeah, it's really, really neat. And where I was going with that is it's not a game you can, when you sent it to me and it was like, play this and beta test it, and it was like, okay. I was like, I'll breeze through it and I'll see how it is. Most games you can do that. You're like banging your head on the wall. It's so darn obtuse. Yeah. And you can't figure it. It's not something you can speed run. It's not something you can set a time limit on how you're going to figure it out. But you wake up the next day trying to like mentally figure out the puzzle that you were stuck on. And that to me it's like watching a great movie or a great book and being like, now how did that time travel work in Looper? Did he shoot himself? Like, I don't quite get that. It's like that same movie. Type of thing. Oh, yeah. I love Looper. Looper's amazing.
Yeah, and another thing, we have Super Nintendo mouse 100% supported, so it is usable throughout the entire game. And we also got the Hyperkin mouse to work, so it is also 100% functioning. So
you got that to work?
I did.
Perfect. Brad Smith, I take it?
No, actually, I found something out he did not know.
Ooh, that is a rare day.
Yeah, so the mouse has to be read 4 times. A normal controller is pulled once, or for 8 of the different bits, but the mouse is pulled 4 times. For the Hyperkin mouse, you have to put a slight delay between the first 2 pulls and the last 2 pulls. Otherwise,
POLLS.
Yes. So yeah, it was just wigging out because the data was, I guess, pulling it too quickly. But yeah, I'm thrilled to have that working because, we wanted to say that we had 100% mouse support for all the Super Nintendo mice, because the Hyperkin, it doesn't feel great. I mean, it feels cheap, but it is readily available for $20.
Ooh,
so if
snap.
you want to buy it, you can get on Amazon Prime, have it in 2 days. You'll be all set. Well, of course, if you have the adapter. But yeah, it's a great alternative if you just need a Super Nintendo mouse and can't get an original.
So that was one of the things that happened with Spookatron and the Virtual Boy controller is that prices shot up once everybody started buying them up. So right now, before we do the NES Cape episode, it's probably the time to go find that Super Nintendo mouse. And yeah.
And I am going to offer a tier that comes with a Super Nintendo mouse and an adapter, but it's going to be very limited, so I probably wouldn't depend on that resource if I were you.
# backed.
Thank you, Beau. I appreciate that.
I do what I can to support the scene.
So let's talk about some of the things that are going on in the community right now.
A lot. We hit different periods in the year where like nothing happens. There's no Kickstarters. There's no new projects that are being released on cart that we can physically buy right now. There's no new announcements. Everybody's just kind of in the halcyon days, as we call them, in late winter where the weather's calm, which I'm pretty sure is where Talbert got his halcyon title from, but
oh really? I didn't put that together.
No, he just picked a word. I had to tell him what it actually meant, as I like to do. But yeah, you go through the doldrums where like nothing's happening, and then all of a sudden way too much happens to even keep track of. So yeah, what has been going on, Kevin?
Well, It's been a little while now, but the NestDev competition finished and the results came in.
Yeah. So do you want to we didn't do our giant 7-hour coverage. And for those 7...
It was our epic.
Yeah. For our 7 hours, there was actually like 10 hours of recordings and interview. No, there was more than that because a couple of guys went wonderfully really long because I can use that in my book research, but we needed like a 10-minute segment. Thank you both Brad and Paul for that. And they both know that most of their stuff got cut because I had to tell them that, but they were great talks, but we had to really pare them down. Anyways, the point being, we did not cover it in the ridiculous depth that we did last year.
Right.
So this year, let's quickly go through the results, if you don't mind.
Let's do it. It looks like a veteran from 2017. Looks like they took the top spot with Grunio Zerka 3.
3, yeah, that'd be MT and Lucas.
Yeah.
They have swept the board again. I assume I haven't got to play some of these, but that one, I'm not a big puzzle platformer guy, but yeah, it seems that other people are, and that took top spot.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's hard to beat a game that looks that pretty. So
MT does very wonderful work, and Lucas does very. It's just running gags. He is a master programmer, the type of person
they're a good team.
You hope to be in 20 years. But you know what's real surprising to me? Are you like sitting down?
I am sitting down
because your game last year did terrible. It sucked.
I appreciate you reminding me of how poorly.
I mean, it was
that's great.
It was like real bad.
How bad was it, Beau?
Oh, I feel like this is you're setting me up for something so
bad.
Yeah,
it was next to last place. It's pretty bad.
Oh, next to last. Okay. But
yeah, okay.
The problem was it was a really fun game to play, but you had to have 2 players. And this year, despite all the odds, second place in the NestDev competition was a multiplayer game.
How in the world did they pull that off?
Do you know why?
I assumed because it's a good game and mine wasn't, but please enlighten me.
Well, I mean, that obviously, but so the second entry was Talbert gets talked about a lot on this podcast. I feel like we should have him on more.
Yeah.
But Nathan Talbert's Super Homebrew War, which was like a Smash Brothers type game that featured characters and battle scenes from homebrew games.
So are you saying that's why it scored so well? Because it included characters from some of these judges' games, so it won them over in that regard?
No, I don't think it included the judges' games, but no, I mean, it was like interreferential, and people liked it. Like, a lot of times I don't even think the people play the multiplayer games, but this one they were like, oh man, that's my character in there, I should check this out. Or like, oh, I played these 8 games and I can play all 8 of the characters. Not that my spaceman was in there or anything, which was drawn by the most excellent Chris Cacciatore. I think the fact that it was involved the community helped it, but it's a very solid game. Like, you play as the Mad Wizard, Heckle, or you play as the spaceman, you play as the Twin Dragons, or you play in the Twin Dragon battlefield. Like, it's just so interesting. And he did... Oh, you can also play as a piece of toast.
And you can play as Player One from Study Hall.
Yeah. The piece of toast was his one of his daughter's drawings of, I think, herself, but it looks like a piece of toast with stick legs. And
that's hilarious.
Those were his testers. His kids were his testers, and so I was really happy to see a multiplayer game score second, and also just I feel like I can rub your face in that just a little in weird ways.
Yeah, I mean, I have to live with the fact that I finally got the courage to enter the competition and got my ass kicked.
Oh, see, when you don't fight back, it makes me feel like a bully, and that makes me sad.
Well, you are a bully, Beau.
Your game was great. Golly.
The creator of the original thought so, or at least he told me that.
Oh, yeah.
Or told someone that told me that.
Did you ever get his permission to actually release that? Oh,
God, anyways. No. You know I don't do that. What else? What scored next here?
Third place was the game that I personally, at a deep-seated fanboy level, felt should have been number one. It is called We Are Hedgical?
Hedgical, yeah, one of those.
Hedgical?
Maybe.
It was done by Puppy. Last year he entered F to FF, and the masterful, thought-provoking, post-whatever, Star Evil, which was, the reimagining of the Action 52 game. And we talked with him last year at length, and I hated having to cut stuff from that interview because that dude is fascinating.
Yeah, and that game turned out to be sort of the darling of the competition.
Oh, I love when you call things darling.
Do I use that word often? Darling?
You've used it a few times.
But everyone seemed to love the intrigue that game sort of presented, because it is not at all, what you think it is at first. So yeah, it's cool to see him back with such another great game.
Yeah, and that was an actual roguelike with randomly generated mazes, and a lot of people for years, that's been the debate, well, you can't do a randomly generated maze game on the NES, and it's like, I think you probably can, and if anybody's going to do it, it was going to be Puppy. And I as interesting as the gameplay was, he does sound as well, and he also does art. His art is very, very good. It's very well done.
No arguments there?
Yeah, well, I didn't expect any because he's awesome.
But look at this. 4th place, another multiplayer game.
Do you just feel like worse and worse about yourself right now?
I do. Like, it's just like, last year I had that defense like, oh, it was a multiplayer game and that's why it scored poorly. And I don't know if this year's results are like a reflection of that and they went out of their way to score them higher. That's what I'm going to tell myself anyway. But they're all like 2nd place, 4th place. Like, these are cash prize winning entries and they're multiplayer, and I love seeing
They're not even that. They are cash prizes that they had to pass on the first time for the new category called multiplayer, because people like Kevin were so tired of being passed over that they had to create their own category.
Yeah, I'm glad that they created that the year after I submitted mine. So thanks a lot, guys.
Well, I think what happened is in the last year, a bunch of the judges got some friends. They could play locally. Done.
Yeah.
Cricket, is that where you do your cricket's sound effects?
Where is... I don't even use sound effects. I don't know what you're talking about. But the 2017 cartridges aren't even out yet. Like, what gives? I want my cartridge.
Oh, man. We have INL recorded as saying they'd be out by, like, December.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Paul.
Moving on.
What do you think about that, buddy? I know he listens.
Oh, yeah. He listens.
Yeah. Well...
Tell you what he's not doing when he listens, making my cartridge.
If you're unhappy with that fact, please email Paul at inl@gmail or wherever.com and express your dissent.
I'm glad that you nailed that email address for everyone to write to.
I clearly have memorized it, yes. So 4th place.
Tesla versus Edison.
Which is a play on Tesla and somebody else.
Thomas Edison?
No, it's not Edison. It's somebody else, because I just watched The Prestige and I had to look it up, and I read the book. And so yeah, Tesla versus Edison, nice multiplayer game. You could play that. There's a bunch of other results. You can check them out. They're all free to download, as always. I mostly wanted to mention We Are Hedgical because I think it's great. Oh, and the fact...
and it's fun to say.
Yeah, and the fact that somebody made Euchre on the NES.
What's Euchre?
See, nobody outside the Midwest knows what Euchre is, but it's a card game you play at the factories on lunch. I played it for a year in like 8th grade in the cafeteria, and I still don't really know how it works. I always lost, and I think that's why they let me keep playing, because they got to win.
So you're saying an obtuse card game
a very
got 8th
obtuse
place, and scored higher than my game did last year.
Oh yeah, your game sucked.
Okay.
Oh wait, we got.
I mean, I'm just digging a hole here of how poorly I did.
We have one more that I want to talk to by Scott Hyatt. I want to talk about.
A boot,
yes, by Scott Hyatt, called Split Second. Did you see that one?
I did not.
Okay, so Scott did, he goes by like Scotty Hyatt Scott Diet. Oh, we talked about him before. Scott Diet, yes. His game where he recreated like a handheld electronic.
Oh, yeah, that one.
Yeah, the one that we talked about last episode, which feels like roughly 3 months ago. Yeah, I mean, I was really sad to see that score like third from the bottom.
Yeah, and that's the the negative part of these competitions is like something has to get last place or, toward the bottom of the list.
I guess that's the new multiplayer game.
Yeah, I mean, they should name this category "Nothing Good Can Come of These Games."
Well played, sir.
Yeah, but no, it's a great idea. It looked great. It's a shame that it didn't score higher.
Yeah, but the important part was, I think, for him was, finishing a game, getting it out, and being able to move on to who knows what. I probably need to check on that now that I think about it.
Yeah, look at that. Multiplayer category had cash prizes for they themselves. $100 for first place.
Which was passed down to second place because first place did so well.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Maybe another year I will try again and score equally low.
Yeah. So, the NestDev competition has come and gone. That was our very quick coverage instead of the 7 to 12 hours. And Paul, Infinite NES Lives, INL, he'll be putting out the cart 2020? Oh,
2021.
Yeah, actually, 2020 feels like it should be in the future, but it's just next year, and that's weird. But he's so busy. Like, I understand why these compo carts, they're labor of love. He doesn't make a lot of money off them, if any, and he mostly does it to promote the community. Which stellar guy, very great guy. But he's also done this expansion audio board. Have we talked about that yet?
I don't think so, but he had, his units up there at MagFest, and we got to sort of hold them and talk to him about them.
All right. He had his units there, and we got to hold them, touch them, and put them in our mouths. No.
I didn't say anything about mouths, but I mean, we did.
Well, that's a weird way to say it, but he had his stuff at MagFest.
Units.
He had his units at MagFest, and we got to kind of try them out. So the expansion port on your NES, if you flip your original toaster over, you'll see this like little rectangular box that if you pinch it, you can pull it off. That's what she said. And underneath is another gray plastic sheet. But if you take a Dremel and you cut that off, you will find under there Japan's secret entryway into the U.S. for terrorist activities.
What?
No, that was a big concern. Like when people discovered that this secret port existed on the bottom of the NES, they flipped out. And you can find the historical resources online. You can go check that out. There is an expansion port, and they actually ran a modem to it in Japan. Like, you could do your banking, do some stock stuff, and gamble with horse racing because, why not?
Could you play BS Zelda on it?
No, that was later.
Lame.
I know, you couldn't actually play a game on it, but you could gamble with horse betting.
I wonder who the first person was to decide, I'm going to Dremel this off because something has to be underneath it.
I think what you do is take the PCB out and go, why is there a weird port under there? And it aligns with that weird thing I can Dremel off, and then you Dremel it off.
I guess that would be easier.
Yeah. If you ever have rare electronics, do not send them to Kevin Hanley. At least not when he's in a dremeling mood.
But what's cool about this chip that you can stick in that expansion slot is it just works, right? You don't have to wire anything up. It just slides in.
Yeah, Paul built this thing. So the Famicom had an extra audio channel that the NES does not have, and expansion audio it's called to most of us. It's on the AVS, things like that naturally, but you can use this expansion port to get your extra channels, and then you have full sound. Like Castlevania 3 had like extra stuff to it. Some games that should have had it, like Final Fantasy 3, did not. Gimmick, that had extra audio coming through that port, and the NES can have all that, but you have to have this little board that Paul has made, and it's really neat that he did it. I feel like it's going to open up some avenues for homebrewers to take advantage of expansion audio, because none of us have wanted to, because it's like, oh well, it won't work on an NES, and now it will.
Yeah, I'm personally blown away because I did not realize, like I always thought anytime I read, expansion audio on the Famicom, like, oh, okay, that's something that I can never have on the NES. Like I never even considered, like I wouldn't have thought, oh, all we need is to devise this board that we can plug in here and it'll magically work. Like how did he even realize he could do this? Like that blows my mind.
It's so simple. It's like, why did nobody think of this 20 years ago? Because like Chicken, he did an expansion audio board that gave, internet functionality and all these expansion audio and keyboard functionality and all these other things, like Famicom peripheral stuff. But Paul's solution is so stupidly simple. It's just like, here's your audio. Done. Just plug it in. I have a stack of Namcot 180 boards just to use the expansion audio, and now I just need to do something else with them.
Cool, we should do some music carts with those.
Well, now we can do music carts for... you still need, like, the onboard sound, so yeah, we can do something with those.
Cool.
Thanks for making me not feel like I wasted all that money. I bought them for the cases.
See, I'm a good friend. I don't rub your nose in things that you do poorly on. I tell you good things that you can do with your life.
Well, other obtuse games have been coming out lately, like the Mojonian Tales, which the Mojon twins, these fellas, they have produced...
Supposedly fellas. I don't think they're women, but I just mean like there might only be one of them.
Well, I know Nathan's involved, and not Talbert, but this Nathan. And
another name.
Another multi-name. We're going to have to start sending you to the island. That's an obscure Ewan McGregor reference, but I think somebody out there got it. Anyways, they've done more games than even Kevin Hanley. Like 50 different games for the NES. They enter.
Whoa!
I know, they enter the competition every year. They've released a faux bootleg multi-card of their stuff. They're like mocking themselves. I love it. I love the we don't take ourselves too seriously approach. But their stuff has always been hard to find. And if you've backed their what is that Spanish Kickstarter website's name?
Okay,
Verkami. If you've backed their Verkami campaigns, you might not have ever received your rewards, like myself. I received 3 of them. I didn't receive the others. Like, they've had some issues with production, we'll say. Because they want to make games. They don't want to deal with cart molds and boxes and labels and customers and all that. So they have now partnered up with INL, who just did that wonderful little expansion board we talked about 2 seconds ago. He's the same guy. He is going to start putting their stuff out in the US and through that the world. But it's great to see them finally like get a handle on production, because Paul's very reliable. I mean, sometimes when my wife goes to order me Christmas presents, he's a little slow, but he always gets everything out. He cares, he does good work, and you never have to question his motives. Like, he's a stellar guy, and so I'm excited to see their stuff being released through him.
Yes. Micromages, have they started shipping those cartridges yet?
No.
Okay, but all of them have been at least delivered from broke studio to the Micromages guys, correct?
Yes. So Julius and Nicholas, the Morphcat Studios these days. The two of them, they have basically converted one of their parents' basements into a full-blown, we're going to build carts workshop. And
that's awesome.
I can't even get like a yes or no response from Julius at this point because they are so bogged down with producing like thousands of cartridges, which you don't, I mean, that's what you always hope for until it happens, and then you're like, uh-oh, we should have hired
only
somebody.
2 people, and we have to do this. And then ship it.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And then the shipping, the packaging, like, they're going to be busy for a while, but Micromages is on its way to people's hands. And having looked through their previous work, I'm most excited for what they're going to do next. I love Micromages. You know that. It's like my number 2 homebrew ever, right after Lizard. And it is just... I say that like it's sarcastic, but that's the truth.
I know.
You know, but I don't know.
You're clarifying for the world.
Yeah, something like that. But it's such a good game, and I want people to play it. I'm very excited to get the feedback. Maybe I'm crazy, but...
On Micromages?
Yeah.
No, you're not crazy. I mean, it is an awesome game.
Yeah,
I mean, it's 4 players of like... just fun. You can sit down with your friends and jump to the top of the level and beat a boss. Like it's easy to pick up and play, and people are gonna love it. I mean, there's a reason that the campaign did so well.
Which is crazy because there was no demo. There was just like some videos and them talking, and it's like, oh man, you don't understand how good this game is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that video they made, sort of detailing on how they crammed everything into 40 kilobytes. That started trending on Reddit again today.
Oh, jeez, man,
it's a video that won't go away. It's just doing very well for them.
That is nuts. I looked at their pre-campaign page and I was like, you have this weird technical video that nobody's gonna like, and sure enough, 1 million views. So
crazy, huh?
If I ever give you advice, just don't listen.
I rarely do. But Project Blue is coming along too, right?
Yeah, that's due on Kickstarter soon. That's done by Toggle Switch and Franken Graphics. Beautiful game.
Yes,
programmed very well. That's the one that uses the SMB physics. It's very interesting. I'm excited to see it on Kickstarter. It's been delayed several times, but I know it's only been delayed because they're both kind of perfectionists, and they're going to make sure
they want to get it right.
Yeah, they're going to make sure that it's everything it should be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you only get, it's kind of trite to say, but you really only get one chance for a first impression. So like they just want it to be as good as they know it can be. So I don't blame them for taking the time. And I'm sure it will do very well on Kickstarter also.
Yeah, and that was the one that I kind of felt like it should have won last year's NestDev competition. Not that Grunio Zerka 2 was bad by any means, but I am jaded when it comes to puzzle platformers, and Project Blue was a wonderful single screen experience.
Yeah.
So what's next?
Oh, did you happen to see that thread on Nintendo Age about that guy that's putting together a compilation cartridge of Zelda music?
The Dark Side of the Moon one?
No. Zelda, isn't it Zelda Moonfall?
Zelda Moonfall, yes. Tell me about it, Kevin.
So he is actually taking Zelda tunes not featured in any of the NES Zeldas, since obviously, the NES versions of that music already exist, but he's composing and basically transcribing and rearranging music from the Super Nintendo Zelda up through like modern Zeldas, and he's going to release on donors, sadly, a physical version of this cartridge for people to purchase.
Yeah, and that blurs the line for homebrews for me, where somebody kind of bootlegs licensed era stuff, but it's all original. It also blurs it for me because it's a chiptune thing.
Yeah,
but I think it'll be interesting to see. I'm curious to see where it goes, and I think the biggest part of the project is that it's helped the guy get going with assembly. Like, it's something he's wanted to do for years, and it's a passion project. He's not out there purposely bootlegging for money.
And I don't think it's going to be a very wide release, since he's like burning the EPROMs and assembling these all himself. I don't think there's going to be more than, I don't know, like 30 or so.
I think he said like 20. And now that we are going to promote this to the world, I probably need to go reserve my copy.
It's gonna be the next Galf. We're not gonna get one.
Oh, I thanks to Zelius, I now have a copy of Galf. Yes. Thanks, buddy. You're getting a shout out right now.
Are you joking?
No, when we
I'm quitting the podcast right here on the air.
Oh yeah, he didn't offer to you.
I am. This is the second thing I haven't been offered on this podcast. Like, you don't buy me Switch games. He doesn't give me Galf. I don't think I have any friends.
That makes my heart warm.
Oh, does it?
Is that bad?
It makes my heart break.
Oh yeah, last night when we went to go record the Rob one, he messaged me, "Hey, do you want this before I put it on eBay?" Yeah. Sorry, Kevin.
I wish you could see the anger in my face right now because I am seeing red.
And Bean and I'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
Well,
you just finished this episode yourself.
I can. The next game I'm going to talk about, I guess, because Kevin has checked out. It is called Untitled Adventure Game.
I bet the creator of this game would offer his friends nice things.
Well, it's tough. Between the two of us, people have to make a choice, and they choose Beau.
That's all right. Let's just continue.
No. This is like where Darth strikes down Obi-Wan, and
not bitter.
Yep, you're just a pile of robes, buddy. Untitled Adventure Game by Blue, which is spelled in a weird French way, like blue cheese.
Yeah.
This might be the game that I am most excited about.
Now, I'm not familiar with this. Can you tell me what is going on? This isn't the other roguelike, is it?
No, this is full RPG.
Oh, okay.
And it uses kind of a more minimalistic style of graphics, kind of like some of the GBA...
Swords and Runes?
Okay, not like that. See, you come back with a vengeance when you come back. You just stick that sword in my runes. Nope. No, that sounds weird.
She did not say that.
No, she didn't. Yeah, that's a strange thing to say. No, it's an RPG. It looks kind of like the GBA Pokemons, and also maybe kind of like Mother 3-esque. It just looks. It leans into the NES restrictions instead of trying to be this really detailed Ninja Gaiden, Castlevania. Like, I'm gonna dither everything. It just goes for like minimal graphics, and it just looks so friendly and nice. And this is the one on my radar, and the person's kind of posted about it here and there. They haven't posted much, and they haven't posted in a while, which always concerns me. But the game looks phenomenal.
Where can we read up on it? Is it over at Nestev?
It was on Twitter, but yeah, it's over on Nestev. If you go to the homebrew section and you scroll down a bit, you'll find a game called Untitled Adventure Game Milestone 2 Basic Gameplay by, you guessed it, Blue. And there's not a lot of information. You'll see some pictures and you'll see a video or two, and it just looks so nice. It doesn't look like what should ever be on the NES, but there it is. So
you're hoping that his silence is him deep in work knocking this game out, not, he's lost interest or motivation and the game will never see the light of day.
Yeah, well, I assume all people are like me and that's just how they work. So yes. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to check that out. That sounds cool.
Oh, to me, it's the most promising game of ever. Better than Neotoxin.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're sort of putting things in perspective now.
I tend to do that. We've talked about perspective quite a bit this episode.
So have you seen that tech demo that's based off of that Super Nintendo game called Axelay? It has like sort of various that's that word again, perspective of like scrolling. It's like a space shooter, it looks like. Yeah,
that is technically...
It's blowing up.
Technically, that is one of the most interesting things that has come out.
Yeah.
And I don't understand it.
Like how it's done?
Have you looked at how it's done?
I mean, I sort of formed quick thoughts into my head. I didn't actually stop to like analyze it hardcore.
Greg, last week at the PAX stuff, he and I sat there for like I don't know, 20 minutes and tried to figure it out. And he's trying to tell me. And I was like, that's not how it's done. It can't be. And I still don't really. And he was talking to Teppels through email at the time. And Teppels is trying to explain it to me via Greg. And I'm like, no, this doesn't make any sense. And he's too smart for his own good. So, like,
right.
I didn't understand it, but I spent the next 2 days pondering it, and I'm still not quite sure. But
well, it's pretty to look at regardless.
What is going on the screen that you see that's so mystifying to me, which you clearly know because it's also mystifying to you?
It's hard to say that it's mystifying. I mean, I just look at that and think this looks very pretty. Like, it looks like art. It doesn't look like anything else I've seen on the system. Clearly, he's doing some fancy tricks. I mean, I don't even know. It's scan line counters. Who the hell knows?
Tricks,
it's way
Murphy.
beyond. It's way beyond anything that I can do. But do you want to have a crack at explaining? It's just a ship just scrolling around the screen shooting things.
Yeah,
but it's what's going on underneath that is most impressive.
Yeah, gameplay wise, it's like, you're just shooting some asteroids that are coming at you, big deal. But in terms of the scrolling, like, what's happening is the screen is bending. At the top, it's short, and at the bottom, everything's much longer, and in the middle, things are normal.
Yeah, it's cool, man.
Like, it's all stretched in such a way that just I love the feeling of being lost when I'm traveling and I get stuck somewhere and I look around and I have no clue where I am and I just get lost, and it's this great feeling of not knowing where I am, because that really doesn't happen a lot in life anymore. And this is that same type of feeling of how is this even possible? Like, how is this guy doing this? And I don't know. And he's like a magician. I just love it.
Yeah. It's very impressive, and there's a reason that it's blowing up on Twitter. I mean, everyone is talking about it on every Nintendo forum that I frequent, so
yeah, we didn't.
It's clearly getting the exposure. No, I mean, we didn't.
Is there going to be a CIB release?
That's all everyone ever asks. No, this turns out this is just a tech demo. The programmer just wanted to see if he could do it. He pulled it off, and he is moving on. It's not even a game. He just sort of wanted to show off what he was capable of, and he clearly left his mark.
And a lot of people don't care for that. Like, we've seen tech demos come and go over the years, but this is, in many ways, something that most of us didn't know could even be done. And so my hope is that it influences actual developers developers that want to, incorporate it into larger projects that are more than tech demos. I'm hoping to see some of this type of stuff in the future. So, like, he's blown all of our minds. He's shown us the way, and, like, what are we going to do with this knowledge now that we have it to turn it into fun, interesting games?
Yeah, there's a lot of good possibilities that are going to come from that. And, it always takes sort of, the first person to land on the moon to show the world that it's possible. So I think that people are going to take this and they're going to turn it into some unique experiences. So only good things will come from that. I'll just call it a breakthrough, for the lack of a better term. So yeah, we'll see what comes of that and where it takes the community.
We're going to close this episode. So in my book research, I have come across many games that were not finished, and they were in advanced stages. So we're going to play some music by a certain developer, which I'm not quite able to say, I don't think. So I'm not going to, because I'm not quite sure. This was the original music in a game that you know and love, that someday I will be able to tell you what it is. But
I like when you're vague too, Beau.
Yeah. He pulled his own music out of it and put somebody else's into the final build, and this is his own version, which has been stuck in my head for weeks on end. So here is Untitled Track by Untitled Composer.
Find our Patreon. Bye.